Hey guys, welcome back to James and John Try Podcasting. I'm James, and with me is John.
Hello. That wave is always for you,
And
James.
I know it just throws me off. And in this special episode of James and John Try Podcasting, the topic today is death and how it comes for us all. John, do you want to explain why we're even going to have this discussion? Why this even became a topic for the two of us?
Do you mean in general? Because it's something we wanted to talk about before, or why I was like pivot to it today?
Let's talk why we talked about it in general before this and why we're then going to pivot to today specifically. We're not sure when this podcast is going to go up. We're trying things today.
Well, I don't know if I want to speak for the both of us of why we've talked about death multiple times before, and it haunts me, James. It is
Same.
a huge source of my anxiety. Like it's just
Same.
something I've struggled with my whole life. Like I know a lot of people struggle with the idea of death, but I mean at least people make me feel that they're able to ignore it a bit more than I am, or that they didn't start thinking about it as early as I did, because I was literally like a toddler when I first asked about death.
Oi.
I mean, well, what's the age range for toddler? Maybe I'm stretching that.
Wow, you would know better than me because you have a younger brother. I would say 2 to 4, maybe 2 to
Okay,
5.
I think like 4 or 5. So either toddler or very little kid. Anyways,
Right.
was when I started thinking about it, asking about it, crying about it. So that's why I want to talk about it.
And yeah, I've had anxiety about death for a while now, since probably high school.
So you didn't start as early as I did.
No, I don't
Lucky
think so.
you. You had a good decade and a half almost.
And you know what? It's a little surprising because I've had to deal with death a fair amount in my life.
Maybe that's why.
Um, and honestly, I think there was definitely a time when it started to bother me because I started reflecting on my religion. I think there was just like that comfort being like a, you know, Christian, or being told I'm Christian.
Oh wait. So there was a time where you were Christian and you actually believed on some level?
Yeah, I believe there was a heaven. I believed
Okay.
there was a hell. I guess I was more afraid of going to hell for being a bad person.
The reason why I say it like that, sorry not to cut you off for like the third time, it's just that I've only ever known you as agnostic or atheist. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And in high school, I would say almost annoyingly so. Like you were almost aggressively atheist. Like I don't know if it's because that switch had not happened that long ago. So like, I don't know.
I mean, I started like questioning my religion in like middle school, maybe even before then. But I think high school is when I made the switch fully. And a lot of that was also like, I would say I wasn't even atheist in high school, or maybe towards the tail end I was.
You were agnostic, no?
Well,
The way you talked about it, anyways.
the way I would define myself now, and I think in high school, was atheist agnostic.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that there's a difference between the two. Atheism is I believe there is no God, and agnostic means
You don't know.
I do not know if there's a God.
Yeah. No, that's a big difference.
Uh, well, for some people, they don't comprehend that there's a difference between belief and knowing, because a lot of people who believe in a religion uh, may say that knowledge and belief is the same thing, and there's probably a lot of people who are also believe, but maybe don't outwardly say they know. You
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
So I think that's like one of my things I had a hard time learning and defining those two words for myself really helped my religious growth, I guess.
Yeah. It made you less annoying.
Well,
Because I'm saying, I feel like in the way you came across was like specifically atheist initially, anyways, and then as time went on, you were like, well, I really don't. No one, knows. Like no one, knows. And I'm not
yeah.
gonna pretend to know, and that's a big difference. Because then, I mean, whatever. Like people could believe whatever they want, but like I feel like my issue with like hardcore atheists is that you're just as religious as a
Oh
religious
yeah, yeah.
person, that
No.
you're like shitting on.
And you know what? Like I had that belief then too. I think I also just had a terrible like thought process of I just read 1984 by George Orwell, so I'm going to use a word from that book. I kind of had a double think like philosophy where I believed people should believe whatever they want, but I also believe they were stupid for believing in a god. Uh, you know, because
My
Mhm.
thing has always been like people can believe whatever they want as long as they're not hurting anyone else. I truly do not care as long as you're not hurting anyone else. But as we see, people try to like shape policy and shit based on what they believe
Yeah,
rather than what they know, and it's like, ugh.
I would say that's where I fall now. As long as you're not hurting anyone, which was also my philosophy for like gay rights and trans rights and stuff like that. It always kind of fell on that. And it just took me a little while to get out of that thought process with being atheist. And again, a part of that was a good portion of me being quote unquote atheist was I was not really atheist. I was angry at God and I thought I could hurt God by saying I don't believe in them.
Mm,
And then as I kept processing those feelings and processing what I believed in, I did come to believing that there is no God um, for my own reasons. And I guess to state why I was angry at God, my father died when I was 4, and it took me till probably like after high school of processing those feelings, you know?
I do know, but I still don't know that you fully process those feelings.
Um I do believe I've gone to acceptance of my father's passing. Am I happy my father died? Of course not. Um and I would probably still argue I think when I was young and maybe not even like that young, I don't think it happened like right after my father died, but I think someone like tried to console me by saying, "Oh, like oh God needed your father." And
See, that's what set you on your
yeah,
anger.
because no, that's not true at all. Even the teachings of Christianity, that's not true at all. There's no way God, most powerful force, the almighty, the all powerful, the all knowing, would need my father more than a 4-year-old child, than a 13-year-old child, than an 18-year-old child, you know?
Yeah,
Like I needed my father.
right.
And I would probably be a very different person because my father was a deacon of a Lutheran church. uh, or maybe I would have still have these, but have I would have been able to process those beliefs because I would have someone to talk to.
Right.
My when I told my mother I was atheist, it was like I guess a slap in the face. I don't fucking know.
Mm.
Um, Even though I would not, say she is the best Christian. She has not been in church for a very long time. Um, And the last time she went to church, she begged me to go because she didn't want to go alone.
Did you?
Yes, because she bribed me. I wanted a book, so she took me and bought me the book afterwards.
How was it?
Church?
Yeah. Like, was it just whatever? Like I think I've mentioned to you that like my most recent experiences weren't the best, and that I heard some backwards shit, some ignorant shit, and I was
Oh,
like, I can't.
shit. I didn't have anything like that. It was like Christmas. So she
Okay.
like took me, my sister. I think that's it. Um, and they were welcoming, going like, "Oh, there's probably people who just come for Christmas. We want you to come more often if you can." It, there's probably some non-believers here. Blah blah blah.
Right.
And it was just whatever. It was nice, but
Hmm.
I just remember like they were passing along the wine and um the dish for collections.
Right.
Um, I think I took out like $1 to throw in there, but like the wine thing came first, and I didn't see the person with the wine, and I was young, and I don't even know why I was at the end because I didn't want to be grabbing a thing and passing it along,
Hmm.
especially because I was not going to have the wine because it's disgusting. Um, and a little bit like weirdly a pagan kind of thing. Like, drink the blood of your lord. Like, what? We're vampires now?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Christians definitely like to co-op
Yes.
pagan traditions and make it their own.
But that one, like, it's like, oh, you didn't even cover shit up. Like, why are we drinking the blood of our Lord and eating his body in the form of crackers and wine? But I didn't see the person. I didn't really know how to react. Um and they were like one of the ushers, an older woman, and she had a like mood, and she's like, just take the plate. I'm like, okay. Took it, passed it along, judged her, and I did not put $1 in the charity plate when they came along, and I gave her a nasty look when she came around with it. um, and it's just
That dollar wasn't for her.
no, but she represented the church.
It's fair.
Like I've
Before I
learned.
lose the train of
Hmm.
thought, just because like you kind of quickly went through like you know your beliefs and how that's impacted how you thought about death and stuff as
Yes.
well. Um, well, for one, I've like always been like Christian on some level, and I say on some level, it's just because it's weirder and weirder to say when I'm not a religious person. Like I'm more spiritual than religious.
Okay.
It's just that that's like the basis for like the things that I believe, right? Like that's where it started, right?
Right.
So I'm not really, but anyways, I still believe like there's something bigger, but it's never offered me comfort. So that's the difference. Even when you believed, like that helped a little bit, right? For me, it's never has because, well, first off, the Bible doesn't have a convincing case for heaven in it, in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, the way we try to act like it is,
Right.
like, oh, it's this utopia, it's perfect. Yeah, if it's perfect, that means it's nothing because nothing's perfect. You know what I mean? Like it's just I think like I was reading one thing and the way I interpreted it is just like we're just like lights. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna become a star. Great. Like why do I want that? You know what I mean? That's not making me feel comfort in my life as I know it ending. You know what I mean? Even that supposed benefit of being a Christian, right? Because that's a lot of people turn to religion to reconcile with death, right? That's a big part of it, I would say. Not the only reason, there's community and stuff like
Of
that. But
course.
that's a big thing and I never got that from it. It didn't make me not believe. Like that's never been the reason, the world is more of a reason. But yeah, I never had that. Like I would go to church and I'm like, that's my biggest issue, right? Is the idea of death. And then I would ask people and they didn't give me satisfactory answers. And it's not because it's not what I didn't want to hear. It's because they didn't know how to talk about it.
Right.
Like I needed an adult to talk to me about death, and even my parents, I feel like, kind of had the mindset of like, you're too young to be thinking about this, and it doesn't matter because I am this age and I am thinking about it,
Right.
so help me, you know. And I feel like I didn't get that. Like, my mom was probably the most comforting person, but that's just because she was my mom. You know what I mean? Like, she was just there. She'd hug me, you know, stuff like that. But in terms of like words for me to process and like work through it, I didn't get that. So it just became a thing where they were essentially telling you, don't think about it. But all they really did was make sure that I thought about it for the rest of my life. That's what I've learned. And it was bad for a long time. Like, it used to be a daily, you know, nightly torture for, I don't even remember when it stopped, to be honest, but it was definitely into college. That was still an issue.
Uh, there's a part of me that's like, let's move on from the religion talk and get into the actual discussion of death. But do you mind if I try to define where your religion, like based on certain ideas, just to see where like both you and me are when it comes to certain
Okay.
things? So you believe that do you believe there is a God?
I believe there's something bigger, and if you want to call that God, sure.
Okay. That I believe that we just happened. Shit just happened and it happened. Like out of nothing came something, and that's cool.
Yeah. And I mean, that, like, you know, we both have the mindset that we don't know, so we're not going to speak
Oh, of course.
definitively on anything. So I don't argue against stuff like that, especially because even with my belief of something bigger, well, that had to come out of nothing. So either way, it's just as ridiculous. Whether you say we came out of nothing, that came out of nothing, it's all out of nothing, and it's ridiculous, you know?
I guess. I guess there's just some part of me that goes, if humans came from something
Hmm.
that doesn't have like a presence, or this is gonna sound, because there are some people that go like they can feel God and stuff. Um, but would you say like you feel the presence of something higher, or is it just
That's a
like,
tougher thing to
yeah,
grapple with because the thing is, I change. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing for any believer of any
of
kind.
course,
Like, whether you're truly religious or not, it's something you constantly have to grapple with because you're constantly being faced with things that contradict what you thought you believed, you know? Now, the question is, are you going to blindly believe or are you going to face those things and like try to figure it out?
right,
I guess for me, it's not satisfactory for you because to me, it's like the presence is just the existence. Like, it's literally the miracle that out of nothing that we could be. Do you get what I'm saying?
mm,
And like, if for me, if that's something that led to, because well, the thing is, we didn't come of nothing. Like, you can say at the beginning it was nothing, but we weren't the first things to exist. You
right,
know what I
right,
mean?
right,
So like, so we came of something. That's the first thing, and then but in the way that you're saying that people go like, you know, like they're maybe in there in church and they can feel like the presence. I think that is not real in that way. Like, if you're feeling it, it's because you're meditating, you're going inward and then finding, like I said, just the presence within the existence. But the idea that there's some holier nature of a church makes no sense to me. It's a building. It's walls and a roof.
all right.
You know what I mean? All that's changing is your mindset. And that's fine too, but you got to acknowledge that that's what it is, you know? Like, God doesn't care about churches. It just doesn't make sense. Because then why wouldn't have Earth been built with a church? Like,
Okay, I just gotta mention this. I went to a Christian school my first year of high school when I lived in Florida. My mom heard stories about public school, about Cracker Day, that bullshit. If you didn't listen to episode 2, I discussed that. But she put me in this private Christian little school, little tiny school in a church, and we had one the a huge hurricane, and we got out of school for like months. Was it
mhm.
Katrina? I don't know.
Wilma,
Oh, that sounds right.
wasn't it Wilma?
I think
Because
so.
Katrina was like obviously like New Orleans had to deal with that. But I feel like for Florida, Wilma, I remember that knocking us out for a while.
Yeah,
Was
like
it Wilma?
street lights
I
and
don't know.
stuff. Uh, it was a bad thing, and it didn't destroy, but it did damage on the church and the school, and they had to find places to put us. Like we couldn't even be in the building. They put up a tent for all their like church going stuff since then. And I just remember because the pastor was also the principal, and he was going like, and oh, here's the other funny part. Down the street, like literally a block away, was a Jewish temple that was also used for like school for Jewish kids. Nothing happened to it. It wasn't touched. Um so 1 point for the Jews. But here's how the principal slash pastor binned it. God has graced them with the insurance check to build the church up bigger and better. I'm like, dude, and here and like the Jewish temple, very kind people, had some extra rooms for the pre-K kids because this was like not pre-K, like kindergarten to be because this was from kindergarten to high school. This little school.
Yeah.
That next year, by the way, I think everyone went to our high school. I bumped into a couple kids I knew from that school, or they moved to a different state after that hurricane. A lot of the teachers quit too. Actually, the pastor and the left as well. He moved to a different state.
Wow. So I guess he didn't stick around for those blessings.
I mean, he finished up the school year, but
Oh, okay.
there was.
Well, I'm talking about the building of the new.
Yeah, I think I honestly, when I left that place, I was a fucking atheist pretending to be a Christian in that school at the time, or you know, wherever the fuck I was on my spiritual journey, the not
Yeah.
good part, but still, like, I don't believe any of this shit. But yeah, so that was that.
Why did you have a flashback just now?
I just remember Bible study, which was literally just before the hurricane. We had this little book, and I like the mythology of Christianity. I like the angels and demons, and I was really interested in that part of the learning in Bible studies. After that, I guess all the books got ruined or something because they were just like, hey, we're going to just memorize a passage and you guys have to write it out without looking at the Bible. That's not what I want to learn. I want to learn about angels and demons. It's and to get back to the definition, I was trying to find out where we are on the spectrum of religion and belief. Do you believe that there is a afterlife? Doesn't have to be heaven or hell. It doesn't have to be, ghosts roaming the earth.
Again, this is a thing that kind of depends, because on the one hand, essentially no, because that's why I have such an issue with death, right?
Yeah.
Is that this is it, right? And when I say essentially no, is because what makes you is your thoughts. When you die, that's gone. So even if you're like, energy always transfers, so you will exist, your energy will go on in some way, but to me that's not an afterlife because there's no consciousness involved in that. There's no, you know what I mean? Like, it's just that we know of. Right, we don't know, but it's just like, even if there's a consciousness, it will not be you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get what I'm saying? Because like
yes, I know the
your
Star
memories,
Trek. Huh? I know the Star Trek thing.
Well, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, you don't? So there's a discussion on how the teleportation works in Star Trek, where it literally deconstructs you and then reconstructs you.
Right.
And it's pretty much it's pretty much believed that you are technically dying, and then a clone is being made, and that clone is not the person who went into the teleporter.
Okay. No, I did know. I just didn't know that that's what you were, what you meant. But yeah, so it's just, but the thing is, it's not even that. that's not even what we're describing here, because there's no deconstruction. Your body is right there for everyone to see after you die. You know,
If you're lucky.
it's just fair. But but yeah, so just the idea that like I can't take my brain with me, even if there is something after, kind of bothers me, because I'm like, as much as I like can be like, I hate myself, I guess I love myself enough because I don't want to cease to exist in that way. You know what I mean?
Same.
Yeah, so I guess that's kind of how I feel about it. Like that's what it is. If there's something more, it's not gonna be something that gives me comfort now. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, maybe that something else can still be good, you know? It's just I can't picture that right now because I only have my lowly human mind that I have, you know? So
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, it's just I don't believe that there's anything after this, or if there is, it's like you said, we can't really.
You won't be James.
Yeah.
And I won't be John. Yeah. So that's
And we wouldn't be try podcasting.
No, what if that's all there is? Like
I can accept that.
That's all? Shit. Well, if we can observe the universe or whatever, I can accept it. But if it's just all we know for the rest of time, that would drive me crazy.
I'm trying to think if there's any other factors I think that's important when it comes to belief. But I think those are like the two like touchstones. Like, do you believe in a god or a higher being, or
Right.
Yeah. I guess let's move into death. You've kind of mentioned that you gone through the process of the whole death thing when you were young. I was more like high school, maybe a little after high school, when I started like fixating on death and having
I think that's the best word. I started fixating because I haven't gone through a process. It's still a problem. I'm just too tired nowadays to think about it as much as I used to.
Yeah, I guess yeah. But I even had like a panic attack, maybe like a mini panic attack after that. And like that was probably the scariest thing. Um and I found my own little ways to, not get over the thought of dying, but to at least put some distance on dying. When I was younger, I mentioned this in one of the behind the scenes or in the like tangents that might be going up this month or next month. I'm not sure, but it pretty much what I had to do to get past like fixating and being like so terrified I couldn't even move. I told myself I'm never gonna die. And it is a flimsy, flimsy thing that can easily be teared away. But you know what? It actually did work for me for a little bit. It distanced myself from thinking about death as much as I did. And I still think about death, especially lately, uh, being who I am. um, but I haven't had that like panic attack. I maybe like start crying, but which is probably still not great. But it's still better than, falling to the floor, crying hysterically in the middle of the night, when you wanted to go use the bathroom. But that's something that helped me a lot with stop like fixating on death. And as I get older, like again, terrible thing, but I'll say stuff when I'm like, tired of everything. Well, I guess I'll just die. Fuck this. And that doesn't, ruin me emotionally anymore.
Well, I haven't gotten there.
Maybe you should start believing you're never gonna die.
I can't do it. I can't do it. We had this conversation before, and it did not help me. Like I was like, I can't even wrap my mind around that because I feel like the only way I could do that is to believe in an afterlife. There's no way I'm going to believe that I'm not going to die here on Earth. You know what I mean? I can't say that to myself and even believe it for a second. You know?
So the way I got it to like click for me is I'll never know when I'm going to die. Therefore, I
Right.
will never die.
In your mind, yeah, because your mind will never know that you had died.
Yes.
I get that, but for me, it's always about what's actually the case, not just like my perception of it. And even though that's stupid, actually, now that you're saying it, it's like, well, all we have is what we can perceive. So like, I wish I could, just accept that, because then that would work. But I always think about the fact that no, I just literally it will be done, and I won't know, and that is the best comfort I have from it. But I don't want it to be done, even though it's going to be done. Like I just can't accept that part of it. But one thing I wanted to say, because you were saying like you had panic attacks or whatever, I would have to like talk to my therapist more or to somebody to know for sure. But I think I've mentioned to you before that I think that my anxiety, and obviously death is a huge source of my anxiety, is the reason I used to have migraines all the time.
Okay.
And because I got migraines since I was a little kid, and I literally was seeing doctors, and like, they were just like, kids don't have migraines.
Jesus.
they were like, he's not middle aged. Like, what is this? Like, what is going on here?
Fuck
And
doctors.
they gave me medications, but like, it didn't really help. And I mean, in my mind, the reason is because it was anxiety induced. So you had to like tone down the anxiety to get the results, right? And that's why I believe, I've developed, maybe some coping mechanisms or whatever, or I've thought about things enough to not be as heightened when I do think about them now, that I don't get to that level where I'm going to get a migraine, right? But one time I believe I don't know, because I was a kid,
Right.
but I believe I had a mental breakdown.
Oh.
And I think it was because it was my first time having to actually deal with death. So you spend my, childhood telling me, oh, don't think about it, don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. And now someone's dead in my life. So I haven't built anything to be able to face it, And the thing is, I thought that I was like just crying because I was sad. But I started getting a migraine, and I just reflect back on it now, and I'm like, that's not how I cry when I'm sad. You know what I mean? And I was sad. It was my grandmother.
That was my question.
It was my grandmother from my dad's side the first time, and her name was Guillermina. Apparently, they called her Gia for short. I don't remember that because I was too young.
Right.
I remember her, and I remember her taking care of me, but the more I look back on it, I'm like, the reaction I had didn't make sense to me, because I do remember really loving being around her when I was around her, but I feel like I was barely around her because we moved to Massachusetts, and now, so like all the years that I can remember, I wasn't really around her. I just had like a vague memory of her presence. You know what I mean? And so her dying wasn't, in my mind, shouldn't have made me that level of like heartbroken.
Right.
It's a sad thing. I didn't want it to happen, of course. I did have love for her, and she was my father's mother, which also makes me sad, right? That he has to lose his mother.
Right.
But my reaction just makes me think that I was just like, this person's dead. Like, this person's dead. You told me not to worry about people dying. There's a person dead. You know what I mean? Like, and I was just like losing my shit, because I was like, that she doesn't exist. She's not there no more. She like you know what I mean? Like, what do I do with that? Like, that's gonna happen to me. That's gonna happen to you. Like, that's, you know what I mean? Like, my mom's driving us to New York at the time, and I think I was thinking that like I literally was looking at my mom like, this woman could die right now. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I was thinking, because I was in a panic mode, So I was like losing it. And yeah, like that was just hard. Like, I didn't have whatever I needed to be able to face that moment. Like, facing it, once you get, I wouldn't say desensitized, but like it gets easier, because then my mom's grandmother died. And that was truly probably the saddest like I spent a lot more time with her, you
Mm.
know, and I remembered her a lot more. And also the way she went out, it was terrible. Like she was fighting cancer,
Oh, damn.
and they diagnosed it too late, and she still tried, chemotherapy, but chemotherapy can be really rough. So it was just like
Yeah.
a sad end to like a really strong person, and that was sad. But I didn't have that same reaction that I had to what I remember in my mind, at least the first big death in my
Right.
life.
How old were you for the first death?
I honestly don't know. Like it has to be before 11, but after 7. And the only reason why I give those two is because my parents got divorced when I was 7,
Mm.
and 11 was when I went to Arizona. So it had to be in between that
Okay.
because it happened before I went to Arizona. My grandmother died while I was in Arizona. My mom's mother.
Right.
So actually they were pretty like kind of close together now that I think about it, which is crazy to me to think about. It didn't feel like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This is a fun topic. Uh, so where do we pivot?
Okay. Well, my issue with death is not just that initial thing of like, okay, you're dying and then you're gone. It's literally, like I said, one of the driving forces of like my anxiety. But the thing is, once you become an anxious person, that starts spreading.
Mm.
You start becoming more anxious about more things. And then it comes back to death. And now you're anxious about ways of dying or something that you didn't even think about before. You know what I mean? And I have irrational fears now. Because I would say that the initial anxiety, the initial fear, that's rational.
Yeah.
What's irrational about being afraid of no longer existing? You know what I mean? But then when you start worrying about the ways that can happen, like I have a pretty big fear of heights now. I mean, I've had it for most of my life, but I don't think I always had it.
Okay.
Hate being on planes. Always think we're going down. It gets easier like when you fly more,
Yeah.
but then it goes away because like I stopped flying for like pretty much the whole time I lived in Florida until I went to Portland for a friend's wedding, which was just in the last year. I hadn't flown since I was like 17 or 18, I think, maybe 16. So that's like half my life, and then I start flying again. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm sitting there, I'm tapping my foot, I'm like clenching my teeth. This is okay, people are just okay. Like we could fall any moment. You hit turbulence once, it's like,
Oh
oh
my
fuck,
God.
um and then like when I'm like left with my thoughts, like just late night in bed or whatever, that's when it really gets dumb. That's when it really gets stupid. I start thinking, like, have I ever told you about the thing like where I think about the idea that we're like an ant to an alien and one day they're just gonna step on us, like, and the planet is an ant.
Yeah.
and they just flatten us, like, and that gives me anxiety. It's such a ridiculous thing to think about.
Weirdly enough, it's not. Or
But why is it not ridiculous? Like, just because you think about it too doesn't mean it's not ridiculous.
well, you know what I would say, it's not even just at that point. Did you ever watch oh God, what's the movie with the towel and the aliens and the sad robot?
Robot.
Yeah, it was
A towel
it,
and the
it
alien.
was a book, comedy, sci-fi. What's the fucking name? It's
Robot? You threw me off when you threw robot because I was about to say ET and then you
no.
just like alien. Oh wait, aliens more than one?
Yes.
Can you tell me more about the plot rather than just like random?
The guy is living on this living on Earth, and then pretty much a spaceship comes and tells Earth like, "Hey, you're kind of in the way of our highway, so we're just gonna destroy the planet. You have like a day or two to get off planet. And then his friend comes.
It's not Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah, Hitchhiker's Guide. There we go.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Man, I haven't seen that in so long, and I never read the book. So like it's like you're telling me for the first time, to be honest.
Well, so yeah, I mean that's kind of the basic plot of, hey, yeah, aliens who are more sophisticated than us come in and go like, they're in the way. We'll give them a warning, but that warning means nothing to us who can't get off planet. Because we can't. Yet. I don't know. Honestly, probably the worst thing for me was I would lay in bed, close my eyes to go to bed, and just one thought would pop in my head. What if you die tonight? You're gonna die in this bed. You're never gonna wake up. And then I can't fall asleep because my eyes are just wide awake, and I literally will just have to pass out from exhaustion. That happened to me for so long.
No, I would say the same thing would happen to me, except that that's not the thought I had. My thought wasn't, what if you died tonight? It was more just the idea that I could die at any moment, right? Or it could be years from now, but that I'm going to sleep today without having done anything. Do you get what I'm saying? I felt like I was always wasting time.
So actually, I was thinking about this earlier. Like, would you say you have a fear of failure?
Yes. But you know what's fucked up? I also have a fear of success.
That is fucked up.
I know.
I mean, I'm afraid of like success that's uncontrollable, you know? Like hypothetically, let's just say we had a Patreon or some shit, and one day we went from making $5 to $1 million overnight. It's just like, oh, the fuck are we supposed to do now? Like,
what do you mean? You just keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, but now we have to figure out how, like, taxes. We have to figure out.
Yeah, but we could hire an accountant with that kind of fucking money.
But here's the thing: then we have that $1 million. Then we have to sustain that $1 million. And what if we dip back down to $5 a month?
Well, no. If you have $1 million, like, with how much we needed to make the podcast versus how much we had, like a lot of that we can invest back, but a lot of that we could just put towards sustaining itself. Like, like you could get people to like invest that money for you, or however you want to do it to ensure that you're never going to fucking die hungry, and then just keep doing what you're doing.
I think a part of that also stems from not really having people do stuff for me and having to do everything. And even that's not technically true, but a lot of the stuff like that's important to me, I have to fucking strive to do it. So I think there is like a part of me that's just like, I don't trust an accountant. They're gonna skim money off the top.
All right, well, I'm taking my half and I will work with an accountant, and then you can die homeless and hungry if you want. But I wouldn't let that happen, James. You'd at least have a place, especially since we made that money together. Not just because we're friends, but because we made that money together. I'm just no, but I mean, that's a rational thing. I would say I've seen people have that reaction. Like, they get money and it's like a paranoia. Well, it's like a fear of these people. But then you might be screwing your money. Like,
and I think that's also the thing. Like, there are so many like celebrities who had their like 15 minutes of fame, and then they're now like rock bottom. And it's just like, I guess I always also thought of that as like, oh, they became too successful too quickly.
I mean, it's possible, but I feel like it's just you didn't put the work in. Like, when you become successful, like you do need to lean on other people more, but you need to build a solid team of people that you know are gonna, like, you have to have the worst case scenario planned out as well. You know, if you're just living like, oh, it's always going to be like this, that's your failure right there, you know, because it might not. And then you end up in those poor situations. But it's not like people are in the whatever industry you were successful, if it's entertainment or whatever, those people are not there to help you. They're there to make money off of you as well. So as soon as they're done with you, they'll toss you to the side. So you need to be looking out for yourself, or else, you end up in those situations.
All right. But what I was coming from with that fear of failure, I wonder if that goes hand in hand with fear of death, because we die and didn't accomplish,
Yeah.
what we want. And I'm curious, when did you form a fear of failure?
I would say pretty early on, actually. I don't know what age, but the reason why it started when I was young is because I was always someone who was quick to learn things. I was likable. I could fit in with any group. People always thought I was funny. People always thought I was smart. My family, they probably didn't mean it this way, but that's the way I felt, is that they put pressure on me to be the one, to be like the one that makes it big or something, and like has like huge success. I was always the one that like was told like I could be anything, and they literally believe it. You know what I mean? And for some reason, I don't know I have to unpack that more actually now I think about it, because you want to be able to instill confidence. Like, let's say I have a kid.
Right.
I want to be able to instill confidence in that kid. I want that kid to be able to be the best version of themselves. But for some reason, the way I took it was just a pressure, not like, yeah, I am the best. There was a time where I did believe that though. And I used to do everything I wanted to do. I've told you in the past, like, I used to act even though it gave me anxiety, but I would go out there and I would do it. And the thing is, I would think like I was deserving of doing that, and that I was good enough to do that, and that I was as good as anyone else. And then like in school, I was like more active early on, which is the opposite of how you met me, right? And I was like, I'm a straight A type of person. That was like my mindset, but not because I was like, oh, I'm just going to be like going so hard. I was just like, I learn things quickly and I'll do enough to get that A. And that's how easy I had it in that way. And so, sports, when I would play sports, I was so you already know how competitive I can be, but when I was playing sports, I was like irrational, I'm not built to be like a world-class athlete, but I always had the mindset, like whatever I was doing, I can't be beat. Like the only thing that could beat me is myself. Like that's how I felt. And then it ended up being true though, because I have been beating myself ever since. Like I think that it wasn't just the pressure crumbling on me. I think there had to be a moment of failure that I can't recall right now, and that being a shock to my system, because I always thought I don't fail. You know what I mean? Like I was like, no, I'm the best. Like I succeed.
Jesus.
So when failure hit, I didn't know how to react to it. And then I think it became a crippling fear of I can fail at anything. Instead of thinking I can succeed at anything, I just thought I could fail at anything. And then my fear of success comes from that as well. The more you succeed, the more expectation there is. So I feel a pressure of failing, but I also feel a pressure of succeeding, and then the expectation's only getting higher.
Wow. Yeah, I never had that. I mean, I have a fear of failure, but oof. I don't know. My mom fucking told me, or people, say like, oh, you can be anything. I'm like, I can't be a dragon. Fuck off. I don't know. So just because like, I guess I was more like fantasy or like so fantastical mindset. I was like, that's not true.
No, see, I guess that's good. For me, it's like I just thought about real world things that people actually do. So like I was like, yeah, I can be an actor. Yeah, I could be at one point I was going to be a lawyer. And that's a practical thing that you could just go to school to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's a lot of work or whatever. But I was literally like, whatever it was, I could be it. And then I maybe put too much pressure on myself, not just like from like the family, just in my mind, in my mind thinking I could do anything, and then being like, oh shit, well now I actually have to like do the work to do it. I think that's another problem, is things came so easy to me for so long that I didn't know how to do the work. And then you see people do the work and you're like, shit, I don't have that. I don't have what they have, that drive. Because
Mm,
it's easy to look like you have drive when everything comes easy to you. You
right.
know, I think people thought I was a very driven person. I was an ambitious person, but I wasn't driven because if it's easy, then you're not overcoming obstacles. You're not, you know, it's not like I'm going to do this no matter what. It's just I'm doing this and it's just working out that way, you know? But then when it doesn't, you're like, oh, well, I guess I'm not doing that anymore. Well, that means you weren't that driven, right? But I see people now, it's still like, and I'm just like, fuck, like, how do I get that? Like, how do I find the will to push past whatever? Because it's not like these people don't have their own anxieties and
Right.
insecurities and whatever, you know, they just pushed past. And, you know, that's a struggle. And then, you know, that comes back to death. It's like, oh my God, time is ticking. I'm not doing anything. And it's worse because I know I'm capable, you know, of a lot of things. So it's like, I really, up to this point, don't regret like long term. Like I might be like, oh, I should have done that. But then I move on. You know, I living in regret is not the way, but I do have a fear of being on my deathbed and thinking I've done nothing.
Yeah, like I'm now learning I don't think I have a fear of failure. I have a fear of dying and being a failure. Um, because
That's good though, actually.
it
Because that
is.
means you can keep going and failing and failing and failing until you potentially succeed. Because that's the people who
I mean,
succeed,
it's
right? Is
still
the ones who can
depressing,
take
but yes.
failure. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, no,
but
no,
I'm
I
saying
got you,
that
I got
that's
you.
what I see that those people have is that they're not afraid of things going wrong because they're just going to go again. For me, it's like if things go wrong, it's a shock to this. To this day, it's still just like very very discouraging. I don't react well to it. You know?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's just like you're gonna tell me I need to see a therapist again. For me, like just right now, and for a strong portion of my life, I was like, yeah, I'm a failure. That is just what I am, and I'm working towards.
Jesus.
But here's the thing. I feel like
Hmm.
yours is like you can fail, and that sucks. For me, like it's just like I'm a failure. I have accomplished nothing with my life in any form of way. But maybe if I can work on this or work on that or work on this, I can slowly move up from being a failure to being competent. Yeah, success seems so far away. I'm gonna aim for competent. Um, even though I don't think that's quite the right word.
Well, what do you mean then when you say competent?
I don't know.
I mean, forget about what the word actually
I
means.
guess whatever in between a failure and a success is. There must be
Average.
some. Oh yeah. I
um,
mean,
surviving, surviving.
I guess surviving would be better. The only reason I would say average, I feel like if you go with average on the failure to successful scale, um it kind of puts in perspective that you need to be exceptional to be successful when that's not technically the case. If we're
No, but
I
why do you
but I
say
guess
that?
we're
Why do you say that?
you know what? I think this I think this stems from again from being successful to me is making money.
Okay, well, wait, but before we go down the road, like I just disagree that saying average means that you need to be exceptional. To me, average just means literally the average, like the place that people are on this scale. You want to be in the middle. That's the average.
You're definitely thinking of it in more of a mathematical sense, I guess, and I'm more so
Yeah,
thinking of it in a maybe skill based, I guess, while success and failure isn't entirely based on skill. It definitely has a factor, but it's not, one to one.
right.
What if Einstein did crack cocaine, you know?
He'd still be alive. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, he wouldn't, but
Like there are so many factors that can, who knows how many fucking Einsteins we had who, died in the womb, who fucking got addicted to drugs, who fucking killed themselves. And on the same scale, to make that less bleak, think of all the Hitlers we've lost to that. I don't know why I decide to go so depressive and then try to course correct it.
It's a coping mechanism.
I guess.
It is.
But the weird thing is I'm only doing it right now because of I don't want to bring the viewer or yourself down with that thought too much.
Yeah, but I still think that it's a well, the thing is you wouldn't be able to like let it go and pivot if you just let yourself dwell in it. Like cuz that's what you do in your daily life. You know? So it's still like, okay, how can I if it's making you smile, that has a higher chance of making the audience smile. So like you gotta you know, it is what it is. But that's still a coping mechanism, yeah.
Okay.
But one thing I do want to say, and I mean, if you want to like stop me from, because I was gonna like change direction a little bit, is well, as a note, the reason why this is kind of all over the place is we were gonna record a totally different podcast, and then I just threw on you last second. Let's do the death podcast now, and
pretty much you pulled a John.
Okay. Yes, I pulled a John. But the reason is we've been talking about doing this, but when talking about it, we also know that not any given day is the day we're going to want to do it. Cuz sometimes we're, dealing with whatever issue and, it just could be too tough.
Right.
But today was a day I felt up to doing it. I'm like, let's just knock this out. Also, I have a more recent experience where someone close to me, told me they have cancer, and I had to grapple with that first off, like on my own, because this person didn't give me much, to go off initially. So my mind's spiraling. They're dead. Like that's my mindset. Like they're dead. They're walking, dead man walking. It was tough because like you need to talk about it, to get through stuff like that. But I did get to have like a really good conversation with this person, and it was first off just knowing more, getting more information made me feel. I mean, we don't have control of the situation,
right?
But it made me at least feel not out of control in the sense that like I was spiraling. Like I know the facts now, right? And the facts are still that this person has cancer, but initially it was like they were saying they could be stage 4, and now I know it's stage 2, and that's a big difference.
Oh wow! Wait, what?
Yeah, because I guess they found it in multiple places, and usually, it's like, okay, this is spreading, so it's stage 4. But I guess one place is the initial place, and then the other place is just another initial place because it's a place where it's isolated. So yeah, it's just bad luck in the sense that they got cancer in 2 separate places, but it's not like one led to the other. I guess that's what I understood. I don't know shit, about how cancer works. So, well, for specific to that situation, I'm more optimistic too. Not only just because it's stage 2, but that person initially told me they weren't going to do anything about it. But then, like after we talked, they were much more open, and ultimately, they are getting treatment.
Good.
And so, right. And so that's like a weight lifted, like there's still a fear, and anxiety about not only this person has cancer, but how they're going to react to the treatment, especially if you're the one that convinced them. It's like, I'm like, well, this shit better go, not in the worst possible way.
And also like, I know a little bit more of the information, but also this person in your life, they're not like in the same state as you. They don't live near you, so that's also
it complicates it, makes it tougher. Yeah, so but the point is, I had to go through that process, and I'm in a better place after it, and had, really good not just conversations, but time with that person. And when we got on here, I was just like, I think I could do this right now, Like, I don't know how it's going to go. Like I said, we're all over the place. I think we're hitting things that we would want to hit. It's just not as structured as we would like. But I'm not like super depressed by our conversation overall. Like I could have been,
Yeah, I mean, I think when we originally, I think I'm the one that brought up the topic of death for the podcast. And I remember like after suggesting it and you being on board, that's when I started like pivoting, like, let's see how it goes with the podcast before we do death, for
Right.
multiple reasons, but also because uh we're living a pandemic and you know, you being more comfortable talking about it right now, having someone who's um sick, uh if I was going through that, I don't know if I would be able to talk about it, you know?
Hmm. And I couldn't initially, you know, like I said, I didn't have enough information. I was very anxious about it. I was stuck in my own mind about it. So I definitely couldn't have done it before. It would have just, I don't think I would have been present in the conversation as well.
Mm.
Like I would have said things, but I would have been like probably constantly thinking about that situation rather than, you know, what's the weirdest way you've thought about dying? Can I say another one?
Sure.
Because like I feel like alien stepping on us is pretty weird. But I also have a fear of like a black hole just sucking us up
Just
and
appearing out of
you know like
nowhere.
kind of, but you know like you were gonna get spaghettied first.
Oh, okay.
Do you know about that?
I didn't until you said it, and then I remembered.
Yeah, so that I'm like, well, that sounds awful. Even if it's for like a fraction of a second, I just hate that.
Uh, I mean, the most really the thing that keeps coming up is like the closest I've gotten to death. So I'm gonna talk about that because I can't think of anything like super weird because a lot of my fear of death is, yeah, falling off of a cliff, drowning, burning alive, shot in the head. We live in America. But I guess so I'm just gonna talk about my close experience with death, I guess. It wasn't even that close. But I was a kid. I think this was in Jersey. We were at the beach and we were swimming, but the weather was kind of iffy and the tide was just strong. But, me and my friends, we were just like doing boogie boards on the waves. And I got caught underwater and I had no control over like moving because the tide or the wave was like spinning me
Mm.
constantly. And I didn't know which way was up, which way was down. And I even like trying to swim, I couldn't. And then thankfully, like I somehow like broached the water and I was like, you know what? I'm done with the water for right now. I'm gonna go make a sandcastle and dig a hole in the sand.
I mean, now that you reference to our, you know, previous episode, I really thought that wind was going to take me and that was going to be the death of me. Because I didn't know how to swim at the time.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
And we were in Puerto Rico and you're surrounded by water. So I'm like, if the wind takes me, I'm only going one place and I can't swim, you know? By the way, how did you learn to swim?
I think I feel like I have memories, which, as we all know, memories are fake. But I believe I have a memory of being like at like a kiddie, swimming lesson kind of thing. But also like I think I might have like a little bit more of an instinct towards swimming because, I didn't swim for a long time and then but when I hit like a pool or ocean, it's like second nature to me to just toss. Like some people need to have like things to cover their nose and earplugs and stuff. I'm like, nah, I'm going under the water. I'm swimming. I'm fucking doing laps.
Okay. Well, first, I want to say that I learned because I was thrown.
Oh, that's healthy.
Yeah. And it's weird because I did learn to swim, but I had a huge fear of water. Actually, I would say, I wouldn't say huge fear, but I'm still uncomfortable. Like when I go to the beach, I mostly go to just enjoy the peace. You know what I mean? Like the waves crashing. Like I'd usually like the last thing I want to do is get in the water. Like if Michelle goes like, let's get in the water, I'll get in. But it's like, it's not my first choice. I'd rather just like look or be in the very shallow part, even though I can swim perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Um, But just you said like people need things. I didn't when I was younger, but when I was in Arizona, I remember I had a friend who had a deep ass pool, and I dove in the deep end and I went straight to the bottom, and then my ears popped really bad and they hurt really fucking bad, and ever since then water really irritates my ears.
Huh.
Like I don't use earplugs, but I feel like I probably should, because like I'll get ear aches like very easily, like from going underwater. So
How
I don't know what the
deep
hell
was
happened that
this
day.
pool?
Can't remember if it was 18 or 20.
Jesus.
I don't remember. It was deep.
You had rich friends.
In Arizona, yeah. These people were rich. Like not all of them, but you know, like there was a lot of people with really nice houses, really nice pools, you know. I think that particular friend was from New Zealand, and he would go there every summer, and like that's just awesome. You know what I mean? Like he would show us pictures, and I was like, damn. But like right at the beginning of summer or at the end of summer when he would come back, you know, that's like the couple weeks or whatever, I hang out with him and go to that pool and pop my ears apparently.
Jeez.
But yeah. I mean, it only happened the one time, and I was like, I'm never diving in on the deep end ever again.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I've dived into water ever since then. Like I'll jump in, but like in a way where I know like 6 feet is the deepest I'm going to jump, where I can kind of like jump in with my legs and then just like stand back up. No problem, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought of that because you were talking about people being all geared up. I'm like, maybe I just need to do that.
I'm not realizing I have not been in like a pool or the ocean in a long time.
Well, I don't know that that's where I would want to go in Jersey, but but man, it's nice. Like I'm trying to be like, again, like more open to just like enjoying things. That's another thing, you know. I think when like with my anxiety and being in my head so much, I would allow that to just ruin everything. There's pictures of me at the beach as like a teenager just looking absolutely miserable.
Oh Jesus.
Like I'm wearing exactly what you saw me wear in high school, like the oversized black jeans, oversized black shirt, oversized black New York Yankees hat.
No wonder you're fucking miserable.
I wasn't hot. I was too skinny to be hot at the time.
Oh my.
You remember?
Yeah,
I
I do.
Like very, very skinny. Yeah, I wasn't hot. That to me, I was like, I feel covered and protected because I burn easily as well. Probably can't be in the sun for more than 30 minutes without burning.
I think that's another thing. Like, I've become so like self-conscious about my body. I think I would have a problem taking my shirt off in like a beach.
You need to get like swim gear. You know what I mean? Like where it's just like, it's like the full, a lot of people do that though. Even people without any, because it keeps you warm too. Like, so maybe you could swim in Jersey if you, you know, had one of the, like I honestly would not without one of those, to be honest. Like I can't stand cold water. I can't stand it. Like it's the worst thing in the world to me. And I'm such a baby when it comes to it. Like you remember when I first moved down here and people would tell us it was cold and we would both look at each other like, you don't know cold, right? You know, because we were from the Northeast.
Dude, fucking people in fucking Florida wearing hoodies. I'm like, how?
I wear hoodies now.
You're no. Like, no. Like,
well, it would make you too hot though.
The hoodie, yeah.
I'm a twig.
Oh my.
Well, I'm not as much anymore, but like, no, that's a factor. Like there's at night, it gets cool at night. You know what I mean? And I could use
at night, but
another layer.
I don't know, when we went to school and shit.
High schoolers, yeah.
Like,
yeah, there's people who wear like multiple layers just for the fashion. It's for the fashion, bro.
I guess, but that. I mean, look at me. I'm wearing a Digimon shirt. Like, I don't give a shit about fashion. But like,
I'm just saying that's why they did it.
Yeah, and just so you know, if anyone's curious about Florida and don't know about Florida, there's literally like 1 week where it's cool, chill a little bit, and then it's hot every other day.
I will say, James, I don't know if this is another thing with global warming. I would say like the last couple of years there's been longer periods of colder times than I remember for like my first 10 years living here. Yeah. Like I get cold sometimes, and I'm not as skinny as I was. So back then, it's like, okay, of course you're cold. Like you don't have any insulation. You're like you need something. But now I feel like I'm average. Um, I get cold. I get cold, bro. Especially like when I have to go to work, like that is at night.
Oh yeah.
But before at night, it would just like be chilly, not cold. You know what I mean? Now I get cold. But when I brought up like temperature stuff, the reason why I did to go back to like the water is that's never been the case with water though. I've always been a bitch when it comes to cold water. Like I hate it. I absolutely hate it. So when I moved to Florida, that was like the one thing where I was like, wow. Like right away. I was like, this is amazing. Like just warm water. Crazy.
Oh yeah, no,
But now I'm a bitch if it's like 70 and that's still way hotter than it is up there.
I remember going to the beaches. Oh god, where were they? Maybe like I don't know. I did a cruise and it was like islands in like Mexico, parts of Mexico. Um, and I just remember the tropical water. Like it was clear, it was beautiful. Oh my god. Like you can see the fish swimming in the ocean. It's just like what the fuck.
We have that here too in Florida.
I know, like, but no, Florida is definitely a lot better than Jersey. Jersey is just green.
Hmm.
But Florida is definitely better, but I felt it was like crystal clear, you know?
We needed to go to more places. We needed to do more like activities than just play video games when you were here because there's definitely places like that that are really cool.
Man, I really wish we just had money when we all
That's
lived
true.
together.
You know, I say that, but I say that now as a person with a job who can actually like figure it out. Then it was like, how the fuck were we gonna do anything?
Yeah. Which is, I guess, why I got into like tabletop games and then never can get you guys.
So, since you brought up money, that's another thing with anxiety, right? It's not just having money, but also, you know, I think people are more overall more aware than we've been in a long time about just being a part of like this economic system that just fucking has no regard for us, right? So I have like it's like like this thing where I'm like, how do I find that balance where I'm making enough money to not be afraid about not having money, but not letting my life get swallowed up by that? Because like, you know, Regal did a number on me.
Jesus.
like that was my life. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's not a life. So like,
and just a reminder for people out there, John was the general manager of a movie theater.
right. So I'm like, that's a source of anxiety. And it relates to death in the sense that like you want to find that balance well before you die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that I would say that's one of the more constant things in the back of my mind recently is like, obviously I left a better paying job and I'm like, I want to do something I enjoy, but I also want to have time for myself.
Yeah.
Because when you're living like that life where like the life is your job and it's not something you're passionate about either, the time that you do have, it's hard to maximize. Like maybe that's a problem with me more so because of my anxiety being stuck in my own mind, stuff like that. And that's something that I needed to get better at, which I think I was getting better at. But it's like, not only am I wasting all that time that I'm at work in terms of like, that's not fulfilling me in any way, but also when I'm outside of work, I just feel so drained and so stuck in my mind about this is my life right now that I can't even enjoy that time. And obviously that's a huge problem. And again, like I said, I know that that's partially my fault because I know other GMs who, you know, were constantly on vacation. And I actually had a GM tell me like, what the fuck are you doing? You go on vacation, you know? But I had I mean, maybe that's the fear of failure. I was like, I can't just go on vacation. You know what I mean? I mean, oftentimes the state of my building was in that way. Like we would be short leadership or whatever. So I didn't want to, it's not that I couldn't go, but I didn't want to put that on other people, like my workload on other people when we didn't have enough people as it was.
Right.
You know, so I felt guilty. I couldn't just go and be free. But then I would tell those people like, no, like I didn't even want to, I didn't contact them. I just, I let them enjoy their time.
Right.
And they're able to, be like, fuck this place because this place doesn't care about me. But I couldn't get to that place mentally myself. So I would tell people to do that, but then I couldn't do it myself.
Yeah, well, I mean, you probably felt more responsibilities. I think, I didn't even work that hard at Walmart, but I still tried my best. And when, the workload still doesn't get finished, it fucking hit me hard. I think it's now with this job, it's just like, you know what? I like to take a week off and do whatever the fuck I want to do, even if it's nothing, even if the biggest thing I'm going to do is go drive up a couple miles and go to Barnes and Nobles and buy some books. But I'm at this point where I think for any job, and especially at my job, because for people who don't know, I work for a company who has residential houses for people with mental disabilities. Like one of the first things, not my manager, but like the person above said was like, don't think of this as a job. You're working with people. I'm like, there are people who fucking like eat that up. And I didn't, thankfully, because fuck, if I didn't take time for myself, if I didn't like disengage, if I didn't fucking find some way to separate myself from that job, oh my God, I'd be dead. Fuck, I would be dead.
Right. I mean, that message though that you just said, I kind of do act like that in a way, but I don't want to be told that. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like you tell me that, I'm like, okay, get your bullshit out of here. But I act that way in the sense that it's like I was just saying, it's very hard for me to like let go. Like it's not my fault the situation is the way it is, but like I'm like feel so guilty if I like I've only ever called out twice in my entire life. Like not just that one job. I'm talking about all of my jobs. So from high school to now, I've only called out of work twice.
John, call out of work tomorrow. Call out sick tomorrow. We are going to play video games. Call out sick tomorrow. No, I'm serious. Call out of work tomorrow. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
I'm like freaking out because you're saying this and this is going into a Friday night.
I'm not
That's
kidding.
killing me.
Oh my God, John. Like, you have PTO, right?
I do, but I've been like trying to save it because it's not like in my previous job where I got a set amount because I was at a certain position, like that I got a decent amount, like I got weeks. I have to earn it. So I'm like A, afraid to use it because then I get back to zero. And then B, I've been saving for like a trip to see my mom.
Okay, that's fair. How much PTO do you have?
Let me check.
I mean, I take, with this job, I'm able to take off 2 weeks. You have PTO. It's not like separated by vacation, sick time.
I believe it's just PTO. Like I have to, all I do is put in the reason, but it's all one pool.
Right. Okay. They did that at Walmart when I left, which worked out for me because they had to pay that out when I quit. At my current job, it's vacation time, personal time, sick time. I have like 160 hours of sick time. And
whoa, I definitely don't.
And I'm at the point of like, I should just call out sick every now and again.
You should.
Absolutely.
Especially like nowadays, like if you have literally any reason you're sick, that's a good reason to,
Yeah. But yeah, it's just, again, there's also the thing, like we're down 2 people. And for our group home, that's a lot of people, especially when one of them is the assistant manager. We've gotten off the topic of death a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, these are all things that feed into it in a way, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Time is ticking. We're dying, James.
Yeah.
I guess that's the case to call out, right?
Is there anything more we want to say about death?
I was gonna say, how can we like tie it up?
I have a depressing one. I mean,
All right, just go. Just say it.
but
If
be
it,
an
we could cut it
outro.
out, we could
Yeah,
put.
yeah. So thank you for listening to the topic of death, and I just want to remind each and every one of you out there, you are going to die.
God damn it, James.
Look, if we have
Don't
to have
you?
panic attacks, so do they.
I disagree. I really do not wish what I think of on anyone. And nothing would ever get done if there was a million James and Johns on this planet.
Oh, Jesus. I guess to tie it up, is there anything else anecdotal? Any last stories?
I'm sure there is, like that again, because we went into this so unstructured, like we didn't prepare for it. We didn't sit and think about it. I still think we talked about some good stuff.
Yeah.
So, with I keep saying like it fueled all kinds of different anxieties, right? My fear of death. Remember, I didn't get my license until what, like 26 or 27?
Oh shit, that late?
Yeah, you don't remember? Like
I remember you didn't have a car, but
I didn't have a license either.
yeah, well that's kind of what I meant. Yeah, I mean, I will say my fear of death definitely stemmed from hating to drive because I was afraid I was gonna die in a car crash.
Wait, the reverse of what you just said, right? Your fear of driving stemmed from your fear of death.
Yes.
Okay. Because you said your fear of death stemmed from you saw a car one time and was like, nope, fuck that. Life ends too easily.
I mean, maybe, who knows?
But I'm saying, think about that, right? Think about how uncomfortable you were driving. Think about how much you hated it. I don't know how you feel about it at this exact moment. Is it still bad or?
I still hate it. I haven't really driven far, I haven't driven more like, 30 minutes at a time at most,
Okay.
So
I think what I was going to say was think about knowing all that, but think about when you had your license and when you had your car, and then think about, I didn't get it until I was like 27, like I think I was 27. I was just too anxious about it. Way too anxious. The thing is, my anxiety in cars wasn't just from me driving. You know that I also would get anxiety in the car with you driving, like with anyone. Just being in a car gave me anxiety. That's why sometimes Michelle hates driving with me, is because sometimes like I can be like a backseat driver sometimes, but it's like I just really need you to minimize the risk of me dying right now. That's how I felt.
Okay, so this is hilarious because I just have this memory of you like trying to show me shit on your phone while I was driving. And I was just like, you need to fucking stop this. I am driving, you motherfucker.
No, but you know why? That's why I was too comfortable. I started getting like my mom and you. I feel like I was really comfortable after a point because you guys were really good drivers, right? Like my mom was just a really good driver, and then you were so afraid that you couldn't like not be paying attention.
Oh,
so then it made me
with you
maybe
in the
too
car
lax.
though. Like if I'm driving with someone, like if I die, I die. Not a great thing to say. But if I die, I die, and like who gives a shit about me? I'm not important.
No, I
will always.
I was gonna say no, I agree, but I meant like I think of the same thing.
Yeah, like as you as a singular person as well. Like, but if I was like, if I was, fuck. But
I'm not important. I agree.
I got what you meant. Like, look, out of everyone to put me down, you're like the least likely to do it. But I care more about other people because I see potential in other people and not in myself.
That's interesting. That second part. It's not so much for me about seeing the potential. It's just that I can't have someone else's death on my because if I don't die, I can't have that on my conscience, knowing that I ended their life. You know what I mean? And then even if I do die, I don't want that to be the case, that someone else's life ended because of me. It's not necessarily how I view them versus me. It's just that if it's me doing it to myself, like accidentally, I mean, it's not like we're like driving off a cliff on purpose. You know, we're just talking about getting into an accident. I can kind of, I was going to say live with that, but I guess I can die with that because, you know, it was just me and shit happens. Right. But like when it's someone else, it's like shit does happen, but that sucks that you're the reason, you know?
I guess, but I guess that would probably affect me more if the person died and I didn't. But if we both
Obviously.
died, yeah, well, yes. But I guess this stems from, you know, the belief of after death there is nothing. So,
Mm-hmm.
I guess my always thought process was, if we, you know, both died, it's just like, when am I taking away from the world from having this person die with me? You know, like, yeah, you may never do
Okay,
anything,
no, no, no,
but
no. But I feel like we're saying the same thing. It's just that when you said potential, like you versus them, um, their life doesn't inherently have any more value, even if you think your life isn't worth much, right? Because I would say like most people don't do anything important, you know. It's just that I don't want to know that they like had friends and family and then take them away from
mm,
them, you know. And I'm not saying knowing it like after, like if we die we don't know it. I'm just saying knowing that going into it, that's the things I'm thinking about. Like, yeah, I still think about stuff like that when I'm driving people around, but to your point where it's like you don't care as much when it's just you. When I'm tired, I don't know where my mind is at, because sometimes I like will straight up start watching a video on my phone while I'm driving myself, and like, yeah.
this is an audio thing, so I have to just say I am aghast. I'm
Yeah,
aghast
it's
at
very
this fucking
it,
man right now.
no, yeah, and I've been like really trying to like correct that, because then I'll be like, wait, like what am I doing? Like I think it's because my mind is mush, like because I'm so tired. Because then I'm like, what am I doing? Like, because yeah, I could die, but like I could also kill someone else, you know, doing this. Like I could like end someone else's life. So I'm like, yo, I need to figure out a way. I feel like I need to start putting my phone like on the passenger seat instead of because I usually have it like on my lap. So like if someone calls, I could just like answer it real quick. But I think I'm just gonna start tossing it to
Does
the
your steering
passenger.
wheel not have like an answer button?
It does.
Oh my!
I don't think I've ever used it. No, but you know what's all, actually that's a good point. I should just plug it in and still just toss it to the side,
Yeah,
because it pops up on. I have a touch screen and I can
yeah,
just click the answer on there.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a problem. Oh, people text me too, and I try to answer that. Like not while I'm driving. I try to do it at red lights. But like I said, at night, like since I've been working this overnight job, I don't think about it as much. Like I just. But that's when you're most likely to like. I shouldn't say most likely. That's when there's a good chance of you killing someone too, because you won't
Better
even see
chance,
them.
yes.
Yeah, you won't even see them. I'm
Uh,
working on it, James.
I'm like now afraid that I need to start auditioning my other friends for a new co-host in case something happens.
I mean, you put the word out there on the last
I'm
show.
legit trying to think who the fuck I can replace you with, and I'm not liking my options. Like, I feel like I would have to do so much work with Steve and Arthel to get them to where we're at, being comfortable talking on microphones. And the only other person I can think of is my friend Jenna, but I'm afraid of the shit I'll learn about her, because I'm already afraid of some of the stuff I've heard about her. And this is definitely going in the podcast because I'll know if she listens to this if she texts me.
You guys are gonna have a conversation then, because wasn't she one of the people that responded after the second episode?
Yeah.
But when I went on, like, told the story about death, I thought you were gonna follow it up with something you were thinking about that I don't think you ever got to, and I thought that was kind of gonna lead to, we got sidetracked.
Yeah,
but
we
like,
got super sidetracked. This is gonna be a fun one to edit. We were actually talking about you driving. You only recently learned how to drive. Actually, not really, because you fucking used to drive in high school, didn't you?
What?
I remember like you were complaining that you had to use your mom's car to fucking go to work. You only had like you were doing it illegally or some shit because you only had a permit. I swear to God, this was a thing.
If I did that, holy shit. I must have like blocked it out of my memory because it was the worst experience. Because like
I
I
think it was only
really
for
cannot
like
remember or imagine doing that.
I think it was like only for like a week or something,
Oh no no no
or a
no no
couple
no 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 no
days.
no. No no no. This was not in high school.
Was it
I remember
after?
what you're talking about. Yeah, it was because it was when my mom went on a cruise and I had to
Yes.
drop her off at the cruise and pick her up. And that was the first time I was driving,
Okay.
like really. And it was with a group of people and then totally by myself and on the highway. And it was all like everything was hitting me at once.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was something. And I got stopped by a cop.
Oh, fun.
Yep. And he grabbed my permit, looked at it, looked at me, and then looked like he just didn't have the time for this shit today. So he just gave it to me and walked away.
Fucking good.
But I was like, I guess my skin paid off that day. I was like, there's no way. Like, there's no fucking way. Like, how did this happen?
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. Man, I've driven you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably the main reason I drove. I had to pick you up
Oh,
from school. Had to help you pick up your sister after she broke her arm or some shit.
Jesus. Yeah.
That was a weird day
Jesus.
too because I did that and I had a test because I was doing community college for a little bit there. So I had to rush to get and then rush to the school.
Fuck, you just said something that made me go, oh. Oh, okay. You said you drove me. And because I was thinking about how, like, you know, it took me much longer to start driving, but I think maybe I'm more comfortable than you now. And it's came down to what you said, where you said, I only drive like 30 minutes at a time. So there was a point where I drove to Orlando,
Really?
you know, and then after that, driving around town is not as big a deal. And then I would say I still had, you know, pretty constant anxiety driving. It was just more managed. But then when my mom was trying to get a house, you know, in Georgia, those constant drives, I was doing the driving. After that, I wouldn't say my anxiety's gone, but it's just totally different. Now my anxiety is more about, is a parking lot busy?
Mm.
It's not about driving on the highway or driving. It's just like, I have to navigate this parking lot with a bunch of people trying to pull out, a bunch of people trying to park, just driving me nuts. People crossing the street. Like, I'm just like, that shit, you know, heightens my anxiety. But outside of that, like just generally driving, I feel way, way more comfortable now.
That's good.
So maybe you need to do a cross country trip.
Maybe look, I think I said this a long time ago, but I was like I remember talking to Steve and it's like talking about like doing a cabin in the woods or, you know, some shit like that.
I don't want to cut you off for the millionth time, but we are on another significant tangent. So do you just want to end it
Okay, this
and
is
just move on to the next one? And
let's just tie this up. I'm just gonna add this here. This has been a roller coaster of a. This has literally been us just chatting, so a lot is being cut out, repasted, and hopefully it will be listenable. But hopefully it was also fun. But I kind of just want to end this. So a lot of our discussion has been about um how we felt about death in the past, and we've kind of skirted and about it in the present, but where would you say you are? Like 100% still the same as you were when you were a little kid, or
well, like I said, you know, that anxiety led to so much other things that I'm anxious about. So it's like there's less bandwidth in my brain to just be focused on death. But then I also said earlier that I'm tired, you know? Like I just am often tired, so like I don't have the energy to stick on things, you know, necessarily as much. Like when I'm wide awake, like when I have the energy, it's right back at it. It's like, oh, hello, my old friend, here to ruin my day. But when I'm tired, I can actually be tired now, you know, and that'll let me either coast or go to sleep or whatever, you know, the case may be. Ignore your text messages, you know, whatever whatever tiredness allows me to do. But yeah, so I wouldn't say it's the same in the sense that it's just not that constant. I mean, it's still constant from like when I talk to other people, sometimes they're like, Jesus, you know, like you need to chill out still. But it's not like it was before in terms that it was a nightly, daily, but definitely nightly thing. I would say it's less than that. But when I have the time to be in my own thoughts, like if I have a day off and I happen to wake up and Michelle's not here and I have nothing to do and I'm not doing anything, here we go again. You know, like I'll just start thinking about it.
Man, you have a lot of distractions. Because I very much have those. Pretty much every weekend I have that doesn't have something planned, like the podcast or editing the podcast. Um, I'm with myself. I'm stuck in my own thoughts, and it's thankfully has not been too much about death. It's more so been about me being a failure in life and gonna die alone. Uh, I don't know, being able to, yeah, I don't know. There's a bit of me that has accepted death a bit more. Um, because I think there's also like a bit of me that's like for the longest time, death is unfair. Death is unfair. But actually, it's probably one of the most fairest things
Mm-hmm.
because we will all do it. Young, old, rich, poor, we will all die.
I mean, I guess the randomness of it is what maybe makes it fair, but at the same time, I still get that feeling that it's not fair. And the reason why I say that is because, I mean, just look at your what you were saying earlier about your dad dying, right? It wasn't fair to either of you, right? He didn't get to raise his child. You didn't get to be raised by a dad. And then if a child dies, that's not fair, not only to the parents who have to live with that for the rest of their lives that their child died, but also to the child that didn't get to live a life. Like really, you know? So it's like unfair to me, but I guess because it's random, it's on some two-faced shit, you know? You know, it's fair in that way.
So, you want to end it here? Like,
God, a real sour note.
well, on that note, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
If you
I mean,
liked
yeah.
please review before you die.
Like before you die. Like,
Oh god, I'm sorry. This is the end of the podcast. We've been here for 2 hours by mistake, and this might be a 45-minute episode. And I just want to thank you all for listening to us talk about death. And if you like this, hey, maybe go review us on iTunes or whatever podcasting app or on YouTube. Hit the like button, subscribe to our YouTube, TikTok, all that stuff before you die because you don't want that on your consciousness. Help us succeed before the flame goes out.